Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. The Saints are heading into a matchup with the 3-11 Jets this weekend, 12 o'clock at the Superdome on Sunday. Following practice Friday, head coach Kellen Moore gave an update on player availability.
Roster-wise, Vele went to IR, Charlie went to the 53. Injury-wise, out guys will be Alvin, Awesome, and Caesar. Questionable guys will be Shepard, Tipton, and then Zaire. He'll be questionable. He was limited today with a knee. The three guys on here but are good to go: Justin Reed, Tyler Shuck, and Gotcha.
Jets head coach Aaron Glenn announced Friday that their star wide receiver Garrett Wilson would be going on IR. So also out this weekend is Wilson, along with tight end Mason Taylor, who will not play, potentially making his return to the field next week. On Monday, Coach Glenn made the move to fire defensive coordinator Steve Wilks and named Chris Harris interim DC. Here is Harris on the Saints offense.
Yeah, they've been playing good football as of late. The quarterback's been doing a really good job. He's a tough guy. He's been pretty accurate. He's got some mobility. So, they've been doing well as of late of the past few games. So, we're going to have our hands full.
While Aaron Glenn spent the 2008 season playing cornerback for the Saints and coached the DBs from 2016 to 2020, Jets special teams coordinator Chris Banjo also spent time in New Orleans playing safety from 2016 to 18. Here is Banjo on his time here.
New Orleans was a phenomenal time for me and my family. My first kid, I remember him being in New Orleans, my first two, honestly. My wife enjoyed it. Obviously, when you talk about the team, the culture we were able to build there, some of the things that we were able to accomplish there as a team. Never got a ring. We got close. Still feel like we should at least have the opportunity to play for one. But tons of memories, great friends, family. Obviously, I was able to play under AG over there. So that city means a lot to me, my family, and just my foundation of who I am as a person.
Over the last week, the Jets have turned to undrafted rookie quarterback Brady Cook. Cook had his first start last week in the Jets' 48-20 loss to the Jags. Cook, out of Missouri, went 22 of 33 for 176 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions in that game against the Jags. Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields were both limited in practice Friday, and Glenn has yet to name a backup. Saints head coach Kellen Moore shared his insight on Jets quarterback Brady Cook.
I've watched Brady from afar, so my brother was at Missouri with him, so I was rooting for Brady for a couple of years, and now obviously not so much this week. But Brady's I thought he had a really good college career. I thought he really raised Missouri, brought them up a notch the last couple of years when he was there, and so one game in. Second game is going to look a lot different. Once you get that first game in the NFL, I think you settle in a little bit. He can make plays with his feet. Certainly that shows up a lot throughout his college and NFL career. Good arm, accurate ball. I think he's going to play. He's going to play pretty well, and so we're going to have to play well.
For more on the Jets, let's bring in Zack Rosenblatt of The Athletic. Zack, thanks for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It is great to have you since you are up there covering the Jets for The Athletic. I appreciate the insight and joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get down to New Orleans tomorrow on Saturday. One of my favorite cities in the world, so I'm very excited.
It's a great time of year to come visit too, because of all the Christmas decorations, and they're always in a good mood here, but it's like times 10 over Christmas.
Yeah,
so.
I have friends and family who say they like to go into like all the different hotel lobbies because they all like judge them up for Christmas and stuff. So I'm gonna have to bounce around there too.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have to walk and hit a couple spots because there's a lot of places that flip.
Yeah.
Become completely taken over as Christmas holiday bars. But ahead of this game, looking at where the Jets are at, been some changes this week in terms of letting defensive coordinator Steve Wilks go because the defense has been struggling. But I think that was, I wouldn't say anticipated. It did let some players go at the beginning of the year that were big parts of that defense. How has the year gone in terms of what the Jets have been able to do on that side of the ball?
I mean, it's kind of been a disaster, honestly. They've gone 14 straight games without a single interception, which is an NFL record. They're on pace to have the fewest turnovers and takeaways in a season in NFL history. I think they have 3 right now, and it technically two of them, I believe, came on special teams, but it just counts as defense because they were on punts. So um, it's been bad. Like they did lose Sauce Gardner, they lost Quinn Williams, but they weren't playing particularly well with those guys either. So I just think there was a problem of scheme, and they were trying to do this whole new scheme with the players they inherited. And I don't think a lot of these players are good fits for it. And I don't think people were buying into what Wilkes was doing. So I think they need a complete rebuild on that defense. You're going to see them adding a lot of new players in the offseason. And, the biggest issues they've had is that you don't really get enough pressure up front, and they don't really force turnovers on the back end. And so that's kind of led to these games where teams can run all over them sometimes, or they can throw the ball on them all over them sometimes. And they haven't really found an identity this season.
With the change, how different can we expect things to be in this game? Because the play caller becomes Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach, and somebody that I spoke to Kellen Moore yesterday. He said he's been in league a long time. He's familiar with how he likes to do things. So he has an idea of what it may look like. But I do feel like this is going to be a game where adjustments are going to be really important, especially on the Saints side.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what looks different because it is a tough spot for Chris Harris to be in. 3 games left in the season. The defense is like pretty banged up. They're down to guys on the practice squad and undrafted rookies in the secondary and things like that. So he can't make like wholesale changes, but I would imagine there'd be a little more aggression, maybe some more blitzing, and a little more creativity on the back end to try and make the Saints quarterback a little more confused. And that's the best you can hope for in this setting. And obviously New Orleans is a tough road environment too, and can get loud in there. And so they have a lot to prove, this defense. They just allowed 48 points last week. I believe they allowed 34 the week before. Just like a brutal 2-game stretch is a big reason why Wilkes was fired. But yeah, a lot of times you see a new coach come in and there can be an energy boost. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if they come out playing with a little more energy this game.
Yeah, I saw that linebacker Quincy Williams mentioned that this just comes down to pride. It's one of those things where you haven't played great. The past 2 weeks are what they are with the points allowed. How have you felt things this week and talking to players and maybe how they're feeling going into this game?
Yeah, it's been an interesting vibe in the locker room in general for this team, because once they traded all those guys away, I think everybody kind of knew they were waving the white flag on the season. So it's not that guys don't care that they're losing. I think they do, but there's also like you don't feel like the real when things go terribly that everybody's like angry. Like I don't really feel that honestly in the locker room. But I will say, like, guys like Quincy, he's going to be a free agent in this offseason, and he hasn't had a great season. And there's guys like that on the roster, and guys who are holdovers from the Freebirds regime who have been struggling. I think they have a lot to prove, and they have pretty high motivation to go out there and play their best game, because it doesn't get any easier after this game. You got the Patriots and the Bills right after that. So and the Saints have been playing well, so I don't think any of it's easy. So I think I hope they come out with more energy and more motivation, because they've started off these games really poorly. That's been the biggest issue. Like, the other offenses have got all the way down the field on like the first drive, and when that happens, you're a little demoralized, and they can't really afford for that to happen on the road.
Yeah, the Saints have been fighting that slow start as well, but defensively, they have definitely locked in the second half. They're only allowing 7.5 second half points on average, which leads the NFL. So that has been something that's been frustrating for Saints fans, knowing that they can shut people down, but why couldn't you do it earlier? So we were not in this hole, and then the offensive game plan has to change and blah, blah, blah. But they are starting to figure things out. When you take a pulse on the fan base, because it's always that thing where, do we want to lose because we want a high draft pick? We're winning right now. So the Saints fans I think they're happy about that. But yeah, you're watching that draft pick go lower and lower to like the 10, 11, 12 pick range. So what are the fans saying and feeling about it?
It's funny you say that, because I was texting with a friend of mine who's a Saints fan the other day, and he was like mad that they keep winning. Whereas, and I feel like, and I'm sure it's the same debate within the Saints fan base, where they're kind of eating each other alive in the Jets fan base, because there's people who are like, no, like I'm not going to cheer for my team to lose. Like, I want the Jets to win. They don't win very much, and they need to build some momentum and all that. But then you have the flip side of like, where we're going to miss out on a quarterback yet again. And so I think the large portion, I think I would say they generally are like, I'm not mad if they lose, but I'm also not going to cheer for them to lose, I would say, is the general vibe. But yeah, it's a weird place to be, especially because, the Jets are in an even more unique spot. They haven't made the playoffs in now 15 years. So fans are tired of waiting. They're tired of another rebuild, another, be patient. We'll get there. And they never get there. And so are fans who are just like tired of hearing the same stuff every year, and they just want it to end. They want the misery to end, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand.
Yeah.
With head coach Aaron Glenn, do we feel like this is a good position for the Jets to be in with him at the helm? Is the rebuild actually going to take off this time?
I mean, it's a fair question. This season went way worse than anybody could have imagined. I think even him. I think he went into training camp, like the way he spoke and carried himself. A little bit of cockiness, I would say. Like he thought it was going to go better for sure, and it went terribly. Justin Fields didn't work out. Um, but like what he's doing, he has the right idea. Like he's trying to build a foundation, a culture. I think he's doing the right things. He just made some mistakes along the way in the quarterback you picked and the defensive coordinator you picked. And the reality is he's in New York, and like I just said, they've been waiting 15 years. So, he's saying be patient. In Detroit, in 2021, when they won 3 games, and the next year they started off slow, but they turned it around and they got patience, and then now the Lions are what they are. But like I don't know that that'll work in New York. Like if they start again next year 0-5, like I don't know if everybody will believe in Aaron Glenn still. And you have an owner who is maybe a little less patient than the Lions owner. So I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure to make the right move this offseason to rebuild this team. And they need to start off faster next year. Like that's reality. But if they can do that, I do think he has what it takes to be the right guy. But he has a lot to prove still. He kind of was learning on the job in the beginning of the season. I think he's gotten better. And next season will be a big test for him.
Yeah, I mean, he was a name that was thrown around when the
Yeah.
Saints were thinking about what to do with their, head coach. Obviously has ties to the organization as a player and a coach here. So I'm sure there's a little different emotion coming back to New Orleans, back in the Superdome, someplace you called home for so long. Has he talked at all about that dynamic going into this game?
He probably will when he speaks today. He hasn't spoken about that specifically, but he does talk about his time with the Saints a lot. Like he brings up what he learned from Sean Payne. He brings up like how they built that team when he was there. Chris Banjo is the Jets special teams coordinator. He brought up how special New Orleans is to him. He was, a key special teams guy for them for a long time. And so I do think New Orleans holds a special place in his heart, but I also know Aaron Glenn is good at like just, this cliche of keeping the main thing. And I think it probably helps that it's Kellen Moore as the coach, and it's not, it's not Dennis Allen. It's not Sean Payton. It's not like a lot of the guys that were there when he was even a coach there aren't really there anymore. So that probably removed some of it. But yeah, I mean, he was in New Orleans for like 5 years, 6 years. So that's a long time. And I know he really loved his time there. And I think that if he hadn't, if the Jets didn't do the thing where they didn't want to let him leave, like he probably would have taken that Saints interview, and who knows what happens. So, I do know he really values the experience he got there for sure.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned the quarterback situation with Justin Fields, went to Tyrod Taylor, got hurt. Now with Brady Cook, the undrafted rookie out of Missouri, getting his second straight start here coming in. 5 interceptions so far on the season for him, not a lot of playing time. But how much is that on him versus maybe the offensive weapons or lack thereof, the offensive line performance?
Yeah. It's been a combo of him making some like rookie mistakes. He got thrown into the fire his first game in this like the second quarter. Undrafted rookie would never taken any reps with these guys. Like it was a hard spot to be in. But
Yeah.
I think that game his receivers dropped like 5 of his passes. And so
That helps.
it's hard to succeed in that case. Yeah. And then this last week, like I think he showed something. Like he doesn't look like a guy that's going to be a starting quarterback maybe in the NFL, but he showed like a competitiveness, and I think he could get the job done. And one of the interceptions, like he should have thrown it to the back of the end zone. Instead, he like kind of floated it up. And another one, the receiver should have fought for a little more. And the third one, the corner just made a great play. So 5 interceptions, 2 games, you can't really have that. But I am curious to see how he handles this, with a little more experience under his belt. And they're going to him while Fields and Taylor are practicing. So they clearly are just like, we want to see what we have in Brady Cook. So he has a lot to prove. He wants to stick around the NFL, and this is a really good opportunity for him.
With who they have on offense, I think there are a couple moves made in season to gain some more receivers and some playmakers there on that side. Who should we be looking out for?
Yeah, I'd say Adonai Mitchell, who they got in the trade with the Colts for Sauce Gardner. He was a second-round pick out of Texas last year for Indy. He kind of lost his role there. Here, he's become their number 1 receiver because Garrett Wilson's out, and he's shown a lot of talent. Like he's big, strong, athletic, really fast, and he's done a really good job of getting open and making plays. And so he's kind of been their top target. And outside of him, they have John Mechie, who used to play at Alabama, and they got him in a trade with the Eagles, and he's kind of played a big role. But the receiver room, it's a lot of guys who there's no guarantee any of these guys will be here next year. So they're kind of just seeing what they have right now, I would say.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting game. What do you think? I mean, obviously both of these teams not where they wanted to be at this point in the season, 3-11, 4-10. What do you think, what position group maybe is going to be key in this matchup?
Probably, I would say the combo of the Jets D-line and corners, like the corners covering guys like Chris Olave and the receivers the Saints have. Like the corners have had really up and down season, and it's a really young group outside of Brandon Stevens. So questions about that. And then at the D-line, they just haven't gotten pressure the last couple of weeks. I think they had 0 sacks and 2 QB hits last week. Week before had 1 sack. And if they don't get pressure on a young quarterback, and an experienced one, then I think he could keep playing as well as he has. And I know the Jets have been really impressed with Tyler, and they've talked about that this week, and they know kind of challenges Olave presents, and so if the Jets defense, if they don't like step it up, like they don't really have a shot even against the Saints.
Yeah, I don't know if you have interacted at all with Jackson Sermon, plays for the Jets. I'm not sure if he's on the active roster at the moment.
He's on the practice squad, I believe. Yeah.
Well, he's the son of our linebacker coach. So,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of a cool tie-in too. There's a lot of like little ties between, that's kind of how it ends up.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
NFL's a big family for sure. But yeah, there's some cool things to look into, talk about, bring up with this matchup.
Well, I know I heard Jarius Monroe, he's a safety for the Jets. He used to play for Tulane. I think he's from New Orleans. He was talking about how excited he is to go back, and I forget what he said he wanted to get. He was complaining about how they do oysters raw in New Jersey, but he's like, I cannot wait to go get some char-grilled oysters down in New Orleans. And he was saying how much he loves Acme. So that caught my ear when I heard him saying that, because I love all that stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. I bet you're like taking notes, like, okay, I gotta go there this weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, it's a lot of good insight and a lot to look forward to, at least prepare us a little bit about what the Jets are bringing in here. And we'll just hope for at least a competitive matchup and a fun game to watch on Sunday.
I would love a fun game. The last couple have not been very fun, so I'm hoping for that too.
I know we've had 2 comeback wins, which has been exciting, but the first half you're kind of like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, real boring too. Yeah, that's the tough part.
So yeah, I appreciate it, and enjoy New Orleans. Safe travels down here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. I
see you
appreciate
Sunday.
it.
Appreciate Zack joining us and giving us all of the info on the Jets as we prepare to take them on Sunday, 12 o'clock at the Superdome. As always, you can join us on the pregame show. It is 11 o'clock on NewOrleansSaints.com, and the postgame show right after the game. When Saints fans, Crown Royal is giving away one lucky winner a trip to Atlanta to watch the Saints take on the Falcons this January. That is the last game of the season. Crown Royal is covering the flight, hotel, and tickets to the game for you and a guest, plus giving you a $500 gift card to make your trip a little sweeter. You can enter now through December 30th for your chance to win. You head to NewOrleansSaints.com, click on contests, and then Rivalry Road Trip. That does it for this edition of the New Orleans Saints podcast. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the weekend, and let's make it 3 in a row. Why don't we?
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.